All right, so we're going to talk a little bit about chlorophyll molecule, and basically just realize that there are a couple different variations of chlorophyll, chlorophyll A and B. A is the most important, and once again, it's found in the chloroplast. It's actually going to be embedded in proteins on the thylakoid membrane. Prokaryotes, they have chlorophyll, but their chlorophyll is not actually found attached to the thylakoid membrane. It's going to be attached in the cytoplasm, and so they don't have a specialized organelle that's responsible for doing that. The reason why chlorophyll has its typical appearance is because it actually is going to reflect the green and yellow. That's why the leaf in the background appears green and yellow, and it's going to absorb red and blue. And at these 2 nanometers that you're going to need to remember, 600 nanometers, okay, that's in the red spectrum, and then blue, which is 420 nanometers as well. There are other pigments that are important besides just chlorophyll. We call those carotenoids. The carotenoids can be a bunch of different colors. They can be yellow, orange, and red. These are actually seen in leaves as they change color in the fall. It's not really that they're changing color. What ends up happening is that the chlorophyll is a very valuable chemical for the plant. It'll pull back the chlorophyll into the roots and stems and branches of the tree, leaving behind the carotenoids, and that's why the leaves look like they change color. If you notice, the tips of the leaves will change first. And once again, they're also found, carotenoids are not just found in leaves of plants, but they can also be found in like carrots. That's what makes a carrot orange. It can be found in petals. This makes different flower colors look the way they are. The purpose that the carotenoids are in the leaves of the plant is they act as accessory pigments. So if you think about what an accessory to a crime is, it's something who doesn't directly do anything with the crime but helps or assists in some way. That's what it's referring to here, is that these pigments are accessories to photosynthesis. They help photosynthesis, maybe not necessarily direct the process in general. And the last little note there is because of the leaves changing in autumn, it's chloroplast. They don't work in the cold temperatures. Therefore, it stops the production of photosynthesis. The carotenoids, which aren't as expensive or valuable to sell, are left, leaving behind the colors of the reds, the yellows, and oranges. And so you can see here in the plants and the trees, what's basically happening is the carotenoids are being left behind, causing those beautiful reds, yellows, and orange colors that are typical of the fall. All right, so the entire process of photosynthesis can be described as into 2 different distinct steps. And when you look at these steps, the basic reaction here I have in the middle of the page, it's important for you to look at and be able to identify what the parts are. So this right here is the reaction for photosynthesis. We take carbon dioxide and water. We need enzymes, the pigment chlorophyll, and light energy. All 3 need to be present. The end result is sugar in the form of C6H12O6 and oxygen. Okay? And as we do this, once again, it's a set of many reactions. So it's not just one reaction. It's divided up into 2 different stages, what we call the light-independent reaction and the light-dependent reaction. The light-independent reaction is also known as the dark cycle. It's also known as the dark cycle. And it's going to happen second. The light reaction is going to happen first. It happens in the thylakoid. It's going to produce a product that's then used in that dark reaction or light-independent reaction. So where does all this happen? If you look at a chlorophyll molecule, okay, so we kind of put this off to the side, you have this chloroplast here. What you end up having is you have a membrane-bound space, and you have these thylakoids. Thylakoids are like disc-like structures that stack. Those are thylakoids. It's actually on the surface of this that photosynthesis occurs. The entire thing is called a granum, okay? And then in between these thylakoid stacks, this part in here, right there, is the stroma. The stroma is like a soup-like liquid. It's like a matrix for the cell. Oops, let me get that down. Okay. So, anyways, the thylakoid discs, that's where your actual chlorophyll is going to be matched, and those are the different parts. Here's a good diagram on this. A couple things. Intermembrane space we talked about here. Okay, that's the space in between. The thylakoid, that's the disc-like structure. The chlorophyll is actually embedded on there. The stroma is the liquid that's in between. Okay, And then we didn't talk about that, don't have to worry about that. A grana is the entire stacks of thylakoids. The reason the thylakoids are discs like this versus just being a square, increased surface areas so that more spots for photosynthesis to occur. Photosynthesis does have two different reactions, and I think it's important for us to kind of be able to look at these. The one on the left here is called the light-dependent reaction or light reaction. The one on the right is called the light-independent reaction, also known as the dark reaction, also known as the Calvin cycle. Okay, so all those three names are synonymous. I do not like the word dark reaction because it implies that it must be dark, which it does not. Okay, so this reaction is going to happen first. It's the light reaction. Notice, based off our diagram, requires sunlight, requires your water, gets rid of the oxygen. What does it do? It produces ATP and NADPH. Those are both just high electron energy sources. Those will be then fed into the dark reaction or the light independent reaction, and it's there that we're going to make the end product, which is glucose. Okay. Once again, it's all those things happen in a series of steps. It's not just one step. It's going to happen in a series of steps. The light reaction always happens first, followed by the Calvin cycle. The light reaction, once again, its job is to make light, convert it into ATP, okay? And it is an endergonic reaction, meaning that without light, it will not occur. It has to have light. Light, what happens is it hits a pigment in the thylakoid membrane, shoots up an energy level. As it shoots up an energy level, it's going to fall back down. As the electron falls back down, it's going to release energy. That energy is going to be captured and then converted into ATP. ATP is like cash for the cell. It can be used to do a bunch of different work. So it can be used to make organelles, transport materials, all that fun stuff. In the process of doing that, we need to have that electron to excite. So the electron actually comes from a molecule of water. So we actually split the molecule of water in the light reaction. So water is required. Okay, follow me. Water is required. Sunlight's required. End result is we're going to get some ATP and NADPH. So during the light reaction, this is a summary. Once again, this is the important stuff to note. I'm not asking you for the individual steps. I'm not asking you to memorize the steps of the light reaction. What do you need to know? Light energy is absorbed. We need to have energy, and we're going to convert it into chemical energy, the bonds of ATP. Water will be split, okay? And then what will happen is we make this NADPH, which will be then used later to help us make some sugar. The big note at the very bottom of the page is notice during this process, no carbon dioxide is involved, no sugars are produced, okay? So it's a very simple process that takes light energy, makes ATP. And here's just a little diagram that shows that light energy comes in, water comes out, okay? Happens on the thylakoid surface of the chloroplast, okay? End result, we make some ATP and NADPH, and then those are going to be fed into the next part of the reaction, the Calvin cycle that's missing from this diagram. The Calvin cycle, what it does is it actually happens in the liquid of the chloroplast, not on the thylakoid membranes themselves. And during this process, we're going to take carbon dioxide, so this is where we input carbon dioxide, and take the ATP and NADPH from the light reaction, and this is where we're going to actually make a precursor to the molecules needed to make sugar, okay? It's also known as the dark reaction. All right, so you can see that here. Basically, light reaction, the products, just as I said, light hits it, split water, give off oxygen. We get ATP and NADPH. Those will be fed into the Calvin cycle. Notice it does not happen in the thylakoid, it's happening in the stroma. We need carbon dioxide. The end result is we make sugar out of the process. And this is a good diagram that just basically goes back and shows all the parts that we have. All right, guys, that's it for this video notes. Hopefully you've enjoyed it and that it makes sense. Have a good weekend, and or actually this is going to be Thursday, so I'll see you in class Friday, and God bless America.